Hey, hello everybody and welcome to Against the Fence, where this is the place to be if you're obsessed and passionate about the UFC, and this is your UFC 302 Aftermath show. We'll be recapping the events from this past weekend. We'll also be looking at a few topics surrounding, of course, Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier. Will Makhachev be the next double champ? We'll talk about whether or not Dustin Poirier should retire or not, or is there one more fight for him? And we'll also discuss what's next for Kevin Holland. Which weight class should he end up in next? What's best for him? And of course, amongst some loads of other different things we'll talk about, of course, like Sean Strickland being next in line. The fact that he's said that he's going to come out and wait around for the next contender. Got a really good fight for Randy Brown and matey boy. My brain is mush because I've just been to a boxercise session, so bear with me. I've got the wrong notes up. That's handy, isn't it? Why has they not come up? That's strange. Nico Price, that's who I was thinking of. Nico Price. So yeah, welcome on in. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well, because of course you know this is a UFC fan channel where fan opinions matter most, and we like to discuss these things as a unit, as a squad, as a community, because it's, of course, we're obsessed with the sport. We love the sport. So bear with. I'm just trying to grab this now. Where the hell is this going? I'm having a nightmare today. Having a nightmare, but that's purely because I've just brought you two shows. Do you know what I mean? Two shows. There we go. Right, so to recap some of the events then, we'll go through some prelims. Anyone catch the prelims? Of course, I caught Roman Kopylov's split decision against Cesar Almeida. That was a quite close fight. That's Cesar Almeida for Alex Pereira before. I caught Jelton Almeida's win against Alexander Romanov. I said in the breakdown of that show that I felt that I was hoping that he was going to display more of his striking against someone like Romanov, who's a little bit more slower, more of a wrestle-heavy approach. But Almeida just went in there and was like, don't care about your wrestling. I'm going to take you down, and I'm going to submit you, rear naked choke. And that's all she wrote pretty much with that one. Didn't catch Grant Dawson's win against Joe Solecki. I picked decision. In fact, I've got one pick wrong all night, and that was the Nico Price-Alex Morono fight. So it was a good outing this past weekend. We're climbing the ladder in the Fight League. If you are new to the Fight League, make sure you click below. There is a link to the description where you can join a Fight League and compete with us every single week. Breezy's in the house. He says Makhachev possibly could be a triple champ. To be fair, wow. Breezy's still clinging on to this triple champ theory of his that he's going on. Maybe. I can't imagine him at middleweight, though. I really can't. He'd be looking thick. But yeah, I heard that Basil Chavez versus Mickey Gall was a fight of the night contender. Basil Chavez picking up the win there. But yeah, that's basically all it in terms of the prelim side of things. Let's take us through and recap some of the main card then and discuss what is next for some of these winners and losers. Breezy says was a boring fight, to be fair. Solecki just got taken down and held down from bottom. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I anticipated with Grant Dawson, to be fair. Yeah, fair play. Let's head on in then to our first fight of the main card, which was Randy Brown picking up the decision win against Elizu Zaleski dos Santos. I can say it, I promise. I had practice prior to the weekend. Because I've not said it in a few days, it's gone off the radar there. 29-28 for Randy Brown. Across the board, that's pretty much how I scored it as well. Whereas dos Santos kind of comes alive later on in fights, really. But where it's a little bit too late. Randy Brown, though, impressed me. He managed the striking very well and looked very comfortable in the clinch. Were the eye pokes enough to throw Dos Santos off of his game, though? I think there was about 2 in total in this fight, and I think most of it came down to these terrible gloves that they've now got in place, which look very similar to the type of gloves that you see in the UFC game. Possibly. I've got 2 potential options for Randy Brown. He did call out Jeff Neal and Stephen Thompson during the MMA hour. Out of those options, I think I would probably prefer Jeff Neal for him, just because I think Jeff Neal's somebody that he can utilise his distance a little bit better. Whereas Stephen Thompson's a bit of a sniper. Yes, okay, he's a little bit later on in his career now. He's 41. He's got annihilated by Shavkat in his last fight, probably due to fight somebody who's, looking to fight upwards. Randy Brown would make sense. And, stylistically, it's very intriguing. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight, but yeah, I think a more winnable fight for Randy Brown would be Jeff Neal. No disrespect to Jeff Neal, but Jeff Neal can pack a punch. So, yeah, interesting stuff. I think Randy Brown should be shooting for the Jeff Neal fight. And I think maybe it's a decent option. But if we head on then to the rankings then at the moment, not much has really changed in the welterweight division. I think we had, 2 welterweight fights this past weekend on the main card? But, yeah, Jeff Neal in at number 10 there, as we can see. You've got Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who is number 9. That's it. Cool. I don't know where I was looking there. So yeah, I think either of those fights aren't too bad. Personally, for Wonderboy, I wouldn't mind somebody like Joaquin Buckley makes a lot of sense. think I'd prefer Neil Magny, because I don't think he's fought Neil Magny before, and I believe it could be a winnable fight for Wonderboy. I'm a Wonderboy fan, man. I have been for a while. I was so certain at one point that he was going to become champion, because in the welterweight division he was just kind of so unique, and I felt that this puzzle that he brought to the octagon was so difficult to solve. But Tyron Woodley was able to fight the perfect fight against him. Wasn't the most entertaining, of course, but he did what he needed to do, land the big shots that he did, and did enough on damage-wise across the fight. So, yeah, I'd go for that for Randy Brown. As for Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, I've got one fight for him. Now moves to 24-7-1 as a professional. I think I would give him Brian Battle. What do you think of this? Because he kind of needs somebody now with a bit more experience as Brian Battle. That would be his next step up for him. Would be someone with that level of experience. But Brian Battle is coming off of a win. Not a win. A no contest against Ange Loosa back in March, which was a couple of months ago now. So maybe if Brian Battle's healthy, he could be due to get back in there pretty soon. As far as I'm aware, he's not got a fight booked. So, it depends how banged up Zaleski dos Santos is, in my opinion. But let's see it. Smash a like on the video if you've not done so already. Welcome on in to this Aftermath show. Let's roll on next then to, because that's all I've got pick wise. If you've got any other alternative options for these two, please make sure you put them in the comment section or in the chats. That's hear you, because maybe you got some better fights than I got. Maybe you're a better matchmaker than me. Let's head on then to the second fight of the main card between Nico Price and Alex Morono. I've got this one completely wrong. I thought Alex Morono was going to best him this time, but didn't really see it. And Nico Price didn't really knock him out this time. He did last back in 2016. He stayed patient for most of the time, and we kind of said this in the expectations during the watch along that we didn't want Price to come forward too aggressive against somebody who's quite quick at moving backwards like Price. So he did a good job of doing that. He worked the body very well as well and during the exchanges. But he's only got 2 wins in his last 5 now, is Nico. So I've got several good options for him. I've got Max Griffin. who beat Jeremiah Wells back in February, or Jeremiah Wells, because both were originally scheduled to fight at this event. But it's 2 losses against Max Griffin and Carlton Harris in a row for Jeremiah Wells. So maybe the UFC decide to rebook that one. It could very well happen, depending on the time frame of things. And for Jake, the other one would be Jake Matthews, because he just beat Phil Rowe this past weekend. So if the timing's right, then maybe that fight could very well materialise. Because Jake Matthews is a tricky individual as well. From what I've heard, he looked pretty good against Phil Rowe. I didn't really catch that fight though, however. For Alex Morono, now 16-7. For him, I felt like coming into this fight that it was one that Morono could win this time around, but he just kind of didn't really step up for this fight, It's kind of sad to see him lose in this kind of way against somebody who took a lot of time out. Let's not forget, did Nico Price. So, and he's had some good wins. I think the win against Court McGee was good. Tim Means. All right, it fell short against Joaquin Buckley, but Joaquin Buckley's on a bit of a tear at the moment. Fell short against Santiago Ponzinibbio, but he looked really good for those first 2 rounds, and he got clipped in that third one. And then prior to that, he was on a 4-fight win streak. So, I think someone like Colston Harris would be a good one, because he recently got KO'd against Chaos Williams, which was back in last month. So, and Colston Harris, tricky on the ground as well. He's got freakishly long limbs, similar to Price. Morono, he's very good off his back. We saw that. Very tricky individual to deal with. So, yeah. Brother B's in the house. Yes, Brother B. Hey, JK, how are you, my friend? I'm doing very well, mate. I've been absolutely busy throwing some shows at you guys and having a boxercise session, eating, and then coming straight back in here to speak to you guys. Yes, Matt W, I see you. Smash a like on the video, brother. Good to see you. He says, I'd like to see Elizu versus Michael Morales and Chaos versus Battle. Also, Price versus Griffin sounds fair. Wow, top matchups to be fair. Michael Morales against Elizu. Yeah, I think Michael Morales is also somebody who is due a fight at the moment. I think I've thrown his name out there for the last few Aftermath shows. That's the reason why I've not thrown his name out there this time. And he's someone who does deserve somebody with a bit more experience. Maybe you would do Michael Morales against Chaos, could be a good one as well, but maybe it's kind of too soon, because both of those guys are very slick. Chaos versus Battle, man, imagine that. Matt W, man, that's a complete firefight right there. Both guys on a tear. Yeah, no, I like that one. Smash like on the video for Matt W. Superstar. Super stuff. But yeah, Carlton Harris for Alex Morono is my choice. Heading on back then to our third fight of the main card. Was anyone surprised that Kevin Holland got the win here? I kind of wasn't, because like I said during the breakdown, and I predicted this fight down, I think to a T. I think I said second round submission. Yeah, I wasn't really surprised, because Olusegun does get submitted, and we've seen that, I think, in numerous fights. The one against Michel Pereira was one of them, and Kaya Bahalio submitted him as well, and Kaya Bahalio, I think, prior to that fight, was known to taking guys to a decision. So, Kevin Holland, yes, he got rocked. Got dropped very early, but he was so quick to attack submissions right away. It was the right move to make, and it allowed him to kind of shake the cobwebs off a little bit. And I think that he'll also want to compete again very soon, because it was a quick win. He's one of the most active fighters that we know of in the UFC. If I said to you right now, name me somebody who's the most active fighter on the roster at the moment, you would probably say Kevin Holland. For him right now, if he's going to, should he stay at welterweight? No, should he stay at middleweight, or should he go back down to welterweight? Is a bit of a question for us here at the moment. I think he said in his post-fight interview that he wants to stay at middleweight, and I don't really blame him. I think he's definitely somebody who's probably finds it hard to stay, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of composed and consistent with diets and things like that. Discipline, that's what I'm on about. So, yeah, I think maybe a return to middleweight might do him some good, and maybe he can make a bit of a rise there, because there was one period of time I felt that he was going to make a bit of a run at welterweight, and then they fed him Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Michael Venom Page, very technical, slick strikers. So, and that's kind of like his kryptonite, really. He does struggle against those kind of guys. The one fight I've got to hit for him at the moment, in the middleweight division, should I say, is Edmund Shabazian. Make that fight happen. He KO'd AJ Dobson back in March. He looked good in that fight, and I think he looked good in the one... Ooh, no, he's coming off a loss at the moment against Hernandez, didn't he? No, it's Dobson. The one before that was the loss against Hernandez, who TKO'd him, but Hernandez is tricky, man. He's so well-rounded, and I think that, he's shown some levels of improvement in his game. Sometimes Shabazian comes out of the gate a little bit too fast, for my liking, and ends up getting finished. So, yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense for Kevin Holland, and for Shabazian as well, Against the other option I've got would be the Joe Pyfer versus Marc-Andre Barriault winner. I think the Pyfer one's a horrible one for Kevin Holland, because Pyfer just hits so hard. But the UFC are giving Pyfer a really good test against Marc-Andre Barriault, because Barriault, he's the power bar for a reason. He doesn't slow down. He keeps going, and he's very gritty. And I think that, people don't knock Barriault out. Very rare people do. I think Chidi and Jaquani might have been the last person who knocked him out. Quite me if I'm wrong on that one. But, yeah. And Joe Pyfer fell short against Hermansson that last fight, due to just Hermansson being a bit too quick on the feet. And I think that Pyfer slowed down quite quick in himself. So, yeah, intrigued about that fight. And I think that fight is pretty much this weekend, right? Yeah. Interesting stuff. Make sure you tune in for our watch long for that. For Michel Oleksiejczuk, though, probably should go in the rankings anyways. Only one's change. Nasser Nurmagomedov moves up in rankings. We're going to revisit that again in a sec. For Michel Oleksiejczuk, I've got Andre Muniz, who's recently pulled out of a fight against Ikram Aliskerov, which was, I think, coming up maybe this weekend. The timing kind of makes sense, but they might want to give him a striker next. And, I feel like Oleksiejczuk, more of a striker, more of a boxing-orientated person. And, yeah, I think that's a good fight for both guys, really, who have kind of struggled to put things together in a lot of ways. Muniz has had some great wins in the middleweight division, don't get me wrong, but he kind of became a little bit of a one-trick pony and got found out really early. So he's got to really adapt his game at the moment, which he has shown signs of. Striking's coming on a little bit, and if you want to showcase that striking, maybe Oleksiejczuk is your man to do it. But Oleksiejczuk is going to be tough. Holland versus Bo Nickel, too early? Question marks. I'm like, don't. If the UFC made that a fight, I would literally have to question the level of CTE in Kevin Holland's brain, because Kevin Holland, all right, he accepts these fights, like, he doesn't care, but it's like the UFC are trying to get rid of him, isn't it? Like, Khamzat Chimaev, Michael Venom Page, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, like, he's had wrestlers against Derek Brunson. The fact he lost to Jack Della Maddalena as well, it's just... been really tough for him, isn't it, in the UFC? So Bo Nickel would be a horrible one, but a great fight for Bo at the same time, because it's someone with a bit more experience and kind of almost that next level. But I think Bo Nickel's the obvious answer of Bo Nickel, I think, is Paul Craig. I still think that's going to happen. Time will tell. Hopefully we will hear some more moves on that. Amazing stuff, Matt W. Thanks for your comment as always. So, yeah, heading on back then to our co-main event. Sean Strickland picking up the win against Paulo Costa. Not surprised by that one. Decision win. One judge scored the fight to Paulo Costa, which made like 0 sense and upset a lot of people. And Dana came out in his post-fight press conference and said he shouldn't really judge a fight anymore, ever again. So, I gave the first 3 rounds to Strickland. I felt that Costa surprisingly was starting to come into his own a little bit later on into that fight. And I don't know if that's purely because Strickland was started to slow down a little bit, was a little bit off the mark at times. Still kept coming forward though. And I was kind of really expecting Costa to really go and make this a war and a bit of a brawl with Strickland. But we didn't really see that at all. He just kept moving backwards and trying to strike backwards, and it didn't really work for him. But yeah, I just think fatigue played a part in that partially. For Strickland, though, it was just a typical Strickland fashion style performance, really, wasn't it? He made Costa fight off his back foot, which is what he needed to do, and it didn't really allow Costa to set anything up massively. Not even that spinning wheel kick that we saw against Robert Whittaker, you know? But, oh well. It's hard to say what's next for Paulo Costa. It really is. What do you guys think? For Sean Strickland, it's obvious. He came out and said that he's going to wait out. And I think that's a smart move for Strickland. Strickland's been known to wanting to stay active. And he's almost one of those fighters similar to like a Donald Cowboy Cerrone, who's kind of better when they're constantly active. But Strickland has wars in the gym all the time, you know, and he's always sparring. So I guess he's always getting it, isn't he? Regardless of whether or not he keeps having fights booked. Waiting out makes sense. The Dricus rematch should happen next on paper, in theory. But is the Dricus do? And we say this time and time again now, quite recent shows, don't we? Is Dricus du Plessis, I think we said last night, versus Strickland happening? Because that Perth card, August will come around pretty quick. We need a main event for it. Somebody last night said that it was going to be Eric Erceg versus Alex Volkanovski, but there was no signs of those rumours at all. So that would be scraping at the barrel, really. You couldn't do could you do a main event pay-per-view for that? I guess it's Volk. He's a fan favourite, but without a belt is difficult, right? So, yeah. Izzy doesn't deserve that title fight. I hope it's not going to be Izzy, and I hope Sean Strickland saves the day and fights Dricus at some point. Maybe he could fight Dricus in Australia if Izzy's not going to fight. I don't know. Not sure what's going on there. For Paulo Costa, it's very difficult to, it's a shame to see him lose again, but it is what it is. Do you give him a Jack Hermansson? I think is a good fight for him, but it just... I do kind of favour Hermansson's chances in that fight. I really do. Paulo Costa just hasn't looked the same since the Izzy loss. Alright, granted, he fought Luke Rockhold, which was an absolute brawl. Both guys were completely gassed because they were fighting at altitude, but Rockhold was out of the game for a long time, you know, and I do think these kind of brawl scenarios favour Costa massively. Because other than that, who's it going to be? Kai Bahalio looking to fight up, most likely. Michel Pereira. I thought Michel Pereira was going to get that fight booked against Roman Dolidze, and I was like so happy that it got announced because it was right after the last Aftermath show, and I was like, I told you guys. But it didn't really actually materialise in the end, which is a shame. So maybe Dolidze is injured at the moment. So maybe Dolidze, Pereira could fight Costa. Anthony Hernandez down there at 14 needs a win. Paulo Costa would make a lot of sense there too. I think we all said the guys, Sinash, reckon that Chris Curtis would be a good fight for Paulo Costa. Stylistically, it's another good one. Chris Curtis, does he deserve to fight up again? A lot of people reckon no, because he lost the last one against Imavov, but I actually felt like he won the fight. Not Imavov. Was it against Imavov? Brendan Allen even. Brendan Allen, I felt like he won the fight. He was moments away from winning the fight, and I felt he won the last round. Yes, George Merry. Evening, men. JK with the costume change. Yeah, quick costume change. I've been to boxercise in between these shows, man. Been absolutely busy. As you can see, I'm just going to get a bit of brain fatigue and probably fall asleep on you guys in a bit. But don't mind me, you know. I'm sure it's still entertaining. Keep the stream running. But we'll keep it going for as long as we can. Matt W says Costa Delize for 3 rounds. Yeah. Because, like, Delize, I thought Delize was going to make quite a bit of a run. Because once he beat Jack Hermansson via TKO, and he had 3 performances of the nights in a row. And he looked really good. I felt that the Marvin Vettori fight was really close. And that he should have won that fight. But then after rewatching it twice, I could see why the judges gave it to Marvin Vettori. The Imova fight I wasn't around for. He won the fight even though he got deducted a point. So yeah, I think both guys have not had the best of runs recently. Costa, 1 fight in his last 5. You know, that's what he's won. I think the UFC will feed him someone very low in the rankings. George Murray says Brazil versus Brazil. Costa versus the guy who beat Paul Craig. Can't spell his name. Kyle Bahalio. It's right in front of you, but yeah, Kyle Bahalio. Yeah, get some Brazilian versus Brazilian crime going. Yeah, I like that. Makes sense. Yeah, all for that. Top stuff, George. Smash a like on the video. Yeah, moving on then to our main event then, because that's basically what we got time for with the co-main. Fast show tonight, guys. Second show was in the same night as difficult. Islam Makhachev picks up the win, submission win late in the fight. Who was surprised at how late it was? Because I thought it was going to be within the first 2 rounds, but Dustin Poirier, props to him, put up a really good fight against Islam. Islam shows the scars to wear for on it. Darce choke, round 5, Bosch. How many different submissions has Islam managed to pull off since being in the UFC? We've got a Darce choke, we've got an arm triangle, we've got a Kimura against Dan Hooker, rear naked choke against Thiago Moises, arm triangle again against Drew Dober. An armbar win as well early on in his UFC career. That's like 5 different submissions in the UFC. So the guy is unreal. What else? I mean, north-south choke, maybe, perhaps. Just do it, mate. I think he's got the capabilities of doing it. Guy is unbelievably strong. Your screen is small, I'm driving. Oh, yeah, that's fair. Of course, you're driving home from work. You're always driving home from work on Tuesday. I should have known that. My bad. But what actually surprised me about Islam in this fight was he actually showed some really good boxing at times against Poirier. You know, he held his own in there. When we were saying going into the fight that he needed to take this fight down as soon as possible, because as the fight draws long, you probably would favour Poirier on the feet. And I was worried at times with the exchanges that maybe Poirier was that one shot away from putting him out, and the crowd going absolutely wild, similar to like the Max Holloway knockout against Gaethje. And, you know, he kind of ends his story and his chapter in his UFC career, as, you know, people were hyping it up to be. But, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, with Poirier, he didn't get completely dominated, did he? He was able to stuff down the takedowns later on in the fight, so got to give him credit there for that. And he landed some really nice shots to the body against Islam. But is it time for him to retire before we move on to talking about Islam Makhachev next? I hope it's not, you know. He did say in his post-fight interview that he wasn't sure. He's kind of like 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door. So maybe after some time to reflect, we'll get an official announcement from him. Look, it wasn't a complete domination, and I think that Poirier should stick around, fight one more fight. Let's give him one that he could potentially a better chance of winning, and let him go out on his shield with a win. That's what I would say. People say don't let the sport retire you. You retire from the sport, and that would be him doing that. George Murray says Usman Nurmagomedov got booted out of the arena. Sure, that was actually quite funny. I think I said on Twitter that he got booted out. I mean, he got booted out for jumping the cage, but 3 other people, I think, also did the same. And I think he got booted out because he's a Bellator fighter. That's my opinion on that. I generally think that was the case. Which kind of shows that Dana doesn't lick Khabib's ass completely. Matt W says the Diamond versus Blessed 3. One more fight of the night bonus for Dustin to break the tie with Barbosa, I think. Yeah, spot on there, Matt W. I mean, look, here's the thing with Max Holloway. There's so many good fights for him at the moment and rematches that we kind of want to see him in. I personally feel that I've got one option for Dustin, which is a fight he's not had yet. It's a bit of a legacy fight in a lot of ways, and it's Alexander Volkanovski, because he did call him out on his YouTube channel. He expected the interest with the Poirier fight, and it would also make sense if Holloway is getting that shot with Ilia Topuria, because as I said earlier, I think that is the fight the UFC want to make. It's the fight that Max Holloway wants, it's the fight that Topuria wants, it's just finalising where it's going to be, and the date. So yeah, for Volk, if Volk is ready to come back and is not completely, he's done with sitting around for a bit, because Volk doesn't like sitting around. He likes to stay active as well. But he needed some time off after those knockout losses. Against someone like Poirier, though, packs a punch. It's difficult, right? For both guys. Both guys could retire after that fight, because if Volk loses to Poirier, does Volk still stick around? If Volk gets knocked out against Poirier, that's 3 in a row. People's going to start questioning. And personally, I don't think that Volk will want to retire after that fight. He'll just take it as, well, I moved up in weight again. It didn't work out. Let me go back down to 145, get another win, and then maybe perhaps I'll bounce. So yeah, I don't think it's Dustin Poirier's time to retire. George says, Matt, don't rush. Max might be called in to fight Chandler. Ooh, that's another option. See? For Holloway at the moment, it is Chandler, Topuria, Poirier, and that's it, right? To save the day? Yeah. 3 potential fights that we want to see him in next. Even Oliveira could be one as well. George says Islam has made his first official defense at lightweight now. Now fight Arman, then Charles, and then maybe Justin or Gamrot. You clear those fights, then call for 170 fight. But till then, stay in your lane. Big call from George. Matt W says, you rather Dustin first time back-to-back loss and retire, or Volk third knockout loss in a row? Mate, I don't know. Oh, that is horrible, isn't it? Oh, great question, Matt W. Smash a like on the video for Matt W. I actually kind of want to go for Dustin Poirier to get one win. I think it's just purely because Poirier has just been around a lot longer. We've seen him fight so many top talented people in that lightweight division. He's fought everyone. And I think for him to get a win, going to the Hall of Fame again, because I think he's already in the Hall of Fame for doing charitable work, then bounce. So I would go for that, actually. Purely because I think in the rivalry between Holloway and Volk, I was always more of a fan of Holloway, I'm afraid. So, yeah. Rivals be rivals. Well, actually, losing back-to-back might be perfect time to retire. Yeah. Volk's the next Tony. Oh, don't, George. Don't. Mate, he went there. Don't. No, man. Oh, especially when Tony's not even retired yet. Once Tony retires, we're going to get a new Tony, and that's going to be Volk. Oh, don't. Oh, man. George, what have you done? All right, okay, I forgot to put the rankings back up. There we go. No changes, of course, there. But what is next for Islam Makhachev? big calls tonight. It's got to be Arman Tsarukyan. That is the number one pick at the moment. We'll also talk about the big topic of whether or not Islam Makhachev is the next double champ. So we'll get into that. For Tsarukyan, though, this is the one fight I've been looking forward to most in probably the last year or so. You know, since Makhachev beat Oliveira, and I've known how talented Tsarukyan is for so long, I felt that he should have beat Gamrot, and should have already got a title fight. For Islam, it's the only option. Yes, Tsarukyan passed the test against Oliveira. Close fight, though. He beat a very tough Oliveira that night. Oliveira was on his game. Scraped the win, but deserves a title fight because he's the number one guy now, and he beat the former champion. So Islam's beat Gaethje, beat Poirier. Gamrot's the next guy coming through. I think I'm hoping Gamrot versus Oliveira happens next, because Oliveira is going to be the next gatekeeper for Islam. So if Gamrot passes that test, Gamrot's going to be like, look, no, I'm here. I'm a wrestler as well. Come at me, Islam. But the problem is with the Gamrot fight, and this is why I'm not too excited about that. I like Gamrot. He's very reckless. He's very good wrestler. Very good chain wrestler. But the problem is, with him, I think he's very undersized against Islam. And it was a shame to see him lose against Dariush, because he couldn't initiate his game plan against Dariush. He couldn't take him down. Dariush just kept popping back up or threatening submissions, and then landing better combinations on the feet. So other than that, you've also got, Chandler's, we don't know what's happening with Chandler at the moment. The Conor fight is currently up in the air, as we talked about in the news show earlier. Do make sure you go and check that out later on if you haven't done so already, because it reveals some exclusive in-depth knowledge from the grapevine. It's come through from people from SBG who train at SBG. So yeah, make sure you check that out. Really excited to see Fiziev get back in there, but I don't think we're going to see the best of him until next year. So yeah, you got Chandler. Chandler, he's fought the top guys in that division last. He's probably going to wait around for Conor, believe it or not. You know, I wouldn't be mad to see Oliveira Chandler again, because that was a really fun fight. That had me on the edge of my seat like mad. So that's the only fight that I'll give him, though. So if Islam beats Tsarukyan, is the double champ option next? You know, does he move up to welterweight? He beats Khabib's record of title defenses. But does it depend on whether or not Belal Muhammad beats Leon Edwards? I'm so hoping, of course, being a Brit, hoping that Leon Edwards wins this fight against Belal. I hope that he knocks him out, because I can't wait to see the back end of this fight. So if that's the case, then you throw him in Islam Makhachev, bit more skilled than Belal, weight class below, but is tonk. And with Islam, his cuts are not getting any easier as he's getting older. So maybe perhaps it would be time for him to move up. Is he next person to be double champ? I can very well see it. In the UFC right now, looking at things, who is the next person to be a double champ? Champions at the moment, we got John Jones. Alex Pereira, already achieved double champ status. Dricus du Plessis, maybe. The UFC, it depends on how popular Dricus gets in this next fight. You know, if he becomes a superstar, if he knocks out Izzy, and Izzy's the fight that they're going to make, maybe he moves up to challenge Alex Pereira. Horrible fight. It's a tough match for Pereira, or whoever Pereira's going to fight next. Leon Edwards, 4-fight win streak, 2 title defenses, a win against Belal Muhammad. Not really enough to go up to challenge at middleweight, in my opinion. Poirier, probably going to be calling for it, but nowhere near it. And I know, you guys have said in the chats before, we need to stop with this whole double champ kind of thing. But, the phrase just gets thrown out quite a lot, doesn't it? But I'm not going to say that. I do want to say this, but I don't want to make these calls and say that is kind of like it should happen now, but you do got to look at it really and think about the UFC and think about making the best matchups possible, and what's best, I guess, for people's careers really. Sean O'Malley could be a possibility because he's got star power. You know, I'm all for the rule of certain amount of title defenses and then move up. So I do agree with that, whether it be 3 or 4 or 10, whatever it is. I guess it depends on how the division's moving, really, isn't it? You know, if you've beaten most of the guys already on your way up to the belt, then you're going to find yourself making a few title defenses and then wanting to move up, right? Pantoja, not really. No, don't really see it. Grasso, if Grasso beats Shevchenko again, is she going to move up to fight Pennington? Maybe. I think Weili Zhang deserves to move up. If anyone as well, Weili Zhang deserves to fight for another belt. You know, if she fights Alexa Grasso or Shevchenko, personally, I think Shevchenko would be an epic fight. So, yeah. Maybe Weili Zhang or Islam, but Islam is probably in the better situation of doing it. Dustin versus Nate, George Murray. That is another thing, because Nate is open to re-signing with the UFC, but for one fight only. Yeah, get him in there. Yeah, why not? And then do Conor after that. George Murray says Bilal said if he was champ, which he won't be, he wouldn't fight Islam. So if Islam moves up, he won't just fight the like of Shavkat or JDM. Yeah, that could really land Islam in a difficult situation. There is we're going to get into the multiverse of madness. Maybe perhaps that should be an idea for another video. Whereas if Bilal does beat Leon, then you've got Islam who's ready to move up because weight cuts are lightweight are a nightmare for him. But then he can't fight for the belt. So does he then fight welterweights anyway, or does he stay down at lightweight, deplete his body even longer, and then potentially lose? So there's a lot of scenarios here, mate. We should be pulling it together like Loki. All of these different universes. The MMA universe. I like it. All right. Epic stuff in the chats tonight, guys. Some awesome stuff. Let that replay. There we go. Smash a like on the video if you've not done so already. Hit the subscribe button as well if you're new to the channel. Matt W says Loki want Ilya to beat Ivalev in Spain. Fight Max at 155 while Islam beats Arman and fights Leon at 170. Wow. Look at Matt W throwing in some multiverse stuff right there. Oh man, that is insane. Yeah, Ivalev I hope doesn't get a title fight. Really, he's just not entertaining enough. But at the same time, it all depends on. I think Max's game to go into Spain and fighting at a stadium there, but I don't know if the UFC want to do it yet. You know, surely you've got to go to Spain, Bernabeu, mate. Oh. But is it too soon for Poirier to do a stadium show though? I don't know. He's getting getting popular though. You know. Matt W also says then Ilya Islam meet at 150. Oh my god, Matt, what are you doing? Multiverse, Bilal is champ and Vince McMahon is chairman of the UFC. Oh mate, there's just so many people hope that Bilal Muhammad doesn't become champion. Me too, guys. Oh no, I'm just not ready for it. Do you know what I mean? No, Leon's got to spark him. That when that fight comes around in Manchester, oh man, guys. All right, okay, we're gonna have to wrap it up there. You guys have been amazing as always. Don't forget we will be live for a watch along as always this weekend for Imavov versus Cannonier versus Imavov, however which way around you want to say it. Not sure what's happening. Myself and Si are actually moving out of this place at the moment, so hopefully the next Aftermath show is going to look a little bit different. I'll be decorating my own studio in my new place, so it's going to be exciting times. Fingers crossed. We'll bring you some more shows soon. Might be Ash this weekend, might be Si and Ash, might be all three of us. in screens, who knows? But make sure that you stick around for us and join us, because we never watch alone, as we like to say. This is the place to be if you're a fan of the UFC. Peace out, people. JK, pleasure as always. Thanks for tuning in. George, get some good rest. Ciao for now. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.